The teams are debating on the topic of should schools be in session for 4 days with longer hours instead of 5 days a week. And debating that schools should be in session for 4 days with longer hours, we have Dominic, Melanie, and Chelly. And on the opposing side, debating that schools should be in session for 5 days, we have Lucas, Elliott, and Fletcher. And please reference the sheet that was handed out to you at the beginning because that has instructions for voting afterwards. Thank you.
So for the format of this debate, each team will have a short opening followed by the second speaker, and they will go back and forth between each other, between the final speakers and the closing. And again, just to say, the handout, if you're already on the Debate Club Remind at 10:40, it will text you a link that you can click on to pick a winner. You can also use the QR code on the bottom of the sheet. If you're not in the Debate Club Remind, you can either use the QR code or you can join the Debate Club Remind at the top of the sheet. If there's time, we'll also have a text message system for voting up here, but that's probably the way to get into the fastest. So again, welcome our outstanding volunteer debaters. If you're interested in joining Debate Club, we meet every Friday in room 184. We debate every other week, and on the alternate weeks, we get volunteer debaters, and we come up with the topics. You're welcome to come if you just want to watch, or if you just have an idea for the debate, but you don't want to participate yourself. So great to have you guys here. Thank you, Mr. Duncan, for this wonderful idea of moving Debate Club to Live in the Library for October. Ellen.
Hello. So, should schools be in session for 4 days with longer hours instead of 5 days a week? Schools should be in session for 4 days a week with longer hours. Due to the research, it can improve attendance, cut costs to budget constraints, and provide students and faculty extra time to manage work and any extracurricular activities. Having this extra day affords students time to do projects, homework, essays, finish any makeup work, and time to study for important tests. On the other hand, this provides teachers and faculty extra preparation time for lesson plans, time to grade papers instead of staying after school or doing it at home, and ultimately gives us all the delayed gratification to spend more quality time with our family and friends, which is, what we all want.
Hello. So, our side is arguing that schools should be in session for the same 5 days a week as it has always been because of certain evidences revolving around the fact that the academic benefits and the supposed, the positives of having the 4-day week schedule, these benefits are not actually clear, and in addition to this, problems with being able to work while, or problems with families working and differences in schedules, along with the problematic addition of the extra hours during the other remaining 4 days in order to fit the same amount of instructional time in the week. These added hours could cause more academic strain on students and result in much more issues than could be potentially solved by
The positives of having 4 days a week, it leads to less stress, and you can schedule doctor's appointments, and the most excused absences are due to doctor's appointments. Since we have that day off, you will be able to schedule your doctor's appointments there. The reduced number of discipline referrals, in Georgia it has dropped to 73%, and it improves overall students' attendance. Due to Melton School District, over 2 years of schedule has reduced 20% and increased students' attendance.
Okay, this also improves student performance. Peach County District in Georgia reports their graduation rates slowly increased year after year, and the Oak Ridge School District in Oregon also reports their test scores improved. This also has a potential reductions in financial costs. The staff recruitment is easier. More teachers are willing to show up on a 4-day week because, for the day off. And with less attendance issues, it can reduce costs on finding substitute teachers. Sports are easier to manage for the teachers. And longer hours may seem like a bad thing, but with more core classes in the morning and elective classes after lunch, you still get the morning brain to focus on your work.
Study done by Holly Ackman Becker analyzed 136 faculty and staff members of schools that have newly adapted the 4-day schedule in Missouri. In this study, 91% of these faculty, staffs, and teachers have a positive belief and have a positive belief in the 4-day week. They believe that there has been an increased productivity, which 89% of the staff responded they were as productive or more productive in their work under the shortened week. Teachers that are paid hourly and thus are negatively impacted by this change still support this, even though they are negatively impacted, they have a trend of positive favor of the 4-day week.
Felmer Catalan to the front office.
Schools will also be providing
Kirsten Watkins to the front office.
Schools will also be providing tutoring during Friday as an extracurricular activity such as and extracurricular activities such as sports and whatnot. School buses should be provided during these times, which should naturally help with parents that would have problems scheduling around the new 4-day weekend, and would still provide students who were struggling with extra time to learn and understand new topics, the topics that they have not come to understand yet.
So for the next section, we're going to be doing a cross-examination where they ask questions to them about what they have just stated.
Which one of the days would be the days where like there's no school?
In the week.
It could be a Friday, sometimes it's a Monday, it can even be like a Wednesday. It just depends on like what your school district like decides upon.
Okay. So one of the questions we had was, what are the benefits of having a 4-day week when there are still activities going on during the 5th day? Because you mentioned that there would still be clubs and activities going on that day. How is that still beneficial if you're still having things going on and students coming to school and costs for maintenance and things like air conditioning?
It allows students to study after school. It allows students to study at home more. It also allows for, if you're having a 4-day week with longer times in school, it allows for less homework because the students are able to complete their work in class and study better in class because of the extended time period. Students are able to focus for longer because there's less...
That's time.
Oh, God.
A report from the Center of Reinventing Public Education studied about 550 school districts in 25 states operating on a 4-day school week. The report found interest in the compressed schedules has risen in response to fiscal crises in the 1980s and the Great Recession. The schedule has gained popularity in rural districts, which have used it as a selling point to entice teachers. However, the report found little evidence to state that the schedule improves student achievement in participating districts.
So, according to Georgia Hayward in 2018, several gaps in knowledge about this system have been identified, such as why districts are still interested in moving 4-day school weeks, what are the actual impact on the students, and how the 5th-day programming can fill gaps providing quality enrichment opportunities for students. So, and also the effect on district management and how these districts can't be held accountable. There's not steps in place to confirm that these districts are operating accurately and successfully.
The National Conference of State Legislations wrote that little is known about the effects of a 4-day week on student outcomes and that large-scale research studies have not yet been performed.
A writer from the Etana Personal Finance blog has found that the requirements for total education time do not change just because a school district goes to a 4-day school week. For the Cove School District in Eastern Oregon, school day begins at 8 a.m. and doesn't end until 4 p.m. After-school activities begin at that point, which means some students don't make it back home until 8 p.m. that night. After 12 hours of being away from home, students struggle to find time to study during the 4-day school week.
The same blog mentions that most parents have employment which requires them to be present for 8 hours per day, 5 days per week. Students attending a 4-day school schedule may have requirements for their education that fall outside of the normal work schedule for their parents.
In addition, it states that the school districts may operate on Monday through Thursday on a 4-week or Tuesday through Friday in some instances, but are still operational from an administrative standpoint on the off day. Programs such as student tutoring, sports, teacher meetings, staff development, and building maintenance happen on the 5th day, which negates many of the cost-saving opportunities of the 4-day schedule appears to offer.
We can see from this report that the longer hours could cause a number of problems such as academic stress, decreased time for extracurricular activities, and a potential burnout for both students and teachers.
Marshall Saronas, please report to the main office.
Also that parents who work during the day that the students are off or are unable to take care of them and have to hire babysitters, use other methods, which can be a strain on the family.
Time. Okay, so now we're gonna have their cross-examination in which they're gonna ask questions to them.
So you say that parents will have to hire babysitters to take care of the kids, but if transportation is provided for students to go on to the 5th day for tutoring and whatnot, then there wouldn't be a need for a babysitter to be hired.
That defeats the purpose of a 4-day school.
That doesn't actually improve anything because the students are still required to be present on that day, and it only slightly decreases the amount of learning and students that are available on that 5th day. So that wouldn't improve anything.
Okay, and for your, one of your first arguments was that in 1980, there was little evidence, but that was over 38 years ago, whereas in other rural counties, they follow this schedule, so how do you still know the statistics are still the same?
The report wasn't from the 80s. It was stating that the 4-day weekend or the 4-day school week was in response to these physical crises.
The 80s was when the monetary crises were happening.
The Great Recession.
And that's when the school day week started. The report was made in 2018.
So now we will be having our rebuttal in which each team will argue anything against what they said and also state why they should win, and we will begin with the 4 days.
Okay. We should adjust. The schools should enter a 4-day week because a lot of the negatives have easy counters to them, such as the longer school days are difficult. There's the concept of delayed gratification, in which if a person is able to hold off their rewards and do work before they get rewarded, so for example, the longer hours means you wait until you get home. This would discipline the kids to work hard in order to get that one extra day off. There's also the transportation, which is of course going to be provided for tutoring. Childcare won't be needed because of the transportation. There's cons against food for poorer kids, which will be easier encounters because there's already a lot of meal plans provided, such as the after summer meals and the after school dinner plans. So even if you're poor, the 4-day week won't affect your ability to stay nutrition and be able to go to school. The improved attendance really helps the students succeed in their life. And the factor and the statement that the negative made about no great studies haven't been made is completely false, because a lot of PhD professors have analyzed the qualities that students have to go through. The students have as a result of the 4-day week, such as one by John Scott Turner, which was a study, you know. I've explained it earlier, so I don't, yeah.
So the benefits of the 4-day week schedule have been displayed by our evidence to be not necessarily clear, and they also claim to provide benefits that actually logically do not make sense. Having the extra day off for potential for students to work hard over the longer days to earn that doesn't make sense, because many times in these situations where they're operating on a 4-day week, they are doing this because of potential poor student behavior and problems in the classroom. And in many of these schools, having the longer days will only worsen this rather than improve it. Although there is an extra day off, it is not as noticeable when compared to being at school for incredibly long amounts of time. In addition to this, the economic benefit that these programs have is obviously negligible due to the fact that many of these school districts still operate on a 5-day schedule due to administrative programs on the 5th day. In fact, Granby School District in Colorado shifted to a 4-day schedule for their 1,100 students. Out of a budget of $5.5 million, they only saved $206,000. So, as evidenced by this, these systems, while they claim to allow for more money and saving money and these things, they do not actually provide that much of an advantage when the numbers are examined. So this minimal difference is important.
So yeah, that's fine. So that concludes our debate, and
Please take a moment and reference the sheet we gave you at the beginning so you can vote on which side you thought had the best argument.
You may also use the text code put up here. If you text Jason Crawford 015 to 37607, vote A if you think the team that won, that we should, the team that debated the best is the 4-day team is A, the 5-day team is B. Note, in traditional debate voting, it's not necessarily about which one you agree with the most, it's about who you thought debated the best. So consider evidence and which team answered the other side well. We'll have that up for just a couple minutes. And my debaters, you are welcome to vote yourselves if you want. And before we leave debaters, we do need to get a big group picture, officers too, so. We'll have voting open for about 3 minutes, then I'm going to cut it.
Keep it. Cut it.
I think